Pod. Hey, boys and girls, this is Uncle Mosh. That's right. Somebody actually claims Sonny and Murph. These two. Check them out on their website, RaidersFanRadio.com. You can friend them on Facebook at RaidersFanRadio, or you can like their fan page at Raiders Fan Radio Podcast. Hey, I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use a Twitter, but they do. You can tweet them at Raiders Fan Radio. Call them. Leave a voicemail if you want. Go old school. 909-345-3346. That's 909-345-3346. Hey, do this. Please subscribe and rate Raiders Fan Radio on iTunes. You can listen to the show on all podcast services like Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Okay, am I done? Did I say all the stuff I was supposed to say? All right, I'm out of here. It's Raiders Fan Radio, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans who are the only fans that matter. That's right, Murph and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Touchdown! Kenny Stabler goes all the way.
We miss you, we love you, and we'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. Just win, baby. Well, I love this team. I think this team can win. I think this team can win.
Welcome in to episode number 41 of Raiders Fan Radio. I am your host, Sonny Dago, and with me, as always, is Murph. Murph, how the heck are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Sonny. I'm excited because, well, tomorrow night, right, kicks off the preseason. I feel like for the past 3 shows now, we've been saying it's now the season, but it hasn't been the season yet. But tomorrow night, it really is the season.
No, it won't be till the regular season, but that's okay.
Damn it.
But it's close. It's getting closer. We're getting little small little gifts. It's like we're opening up the stockings. It's not quite Christmas Day yet. We're not getting to the meaty presents, but we got stocking stuffers, and those are the preseason games coming up probably after you listen to this podcast. So there you go. And this is a different kind of a podcast today, Murph. Episode 41. As you know, we always do interviews. We like getting guys in and girls in from different booster clubs or just different walks of life when it comes to fans of the Raiders. And typically we do an interview, the first part of our show, and then we do the rest of our show. We give you your topics. Well, this week's a little different. Due to some scheduling stuff and an interview that we thought just went so well and went so long, this episode is only going to be an interview. And the interview was with the president of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole, Chuck McCann. Great guy, doing awesome things, and a great interview. And, Murph, it made it easy to flow in and out of the questions. And that's the great thing about Raider Nation is when you're finally just talking to somebody else who's a Raiders fan, it just feels so natural, Murph? And so we decided to break up this episode. So you're actually going to get 2 episodes this week. The first is this interview with Chuck, and we'll also do an extra podcast in a couple days just about the week, and it'll be the post-game podcast of the Cardinals game. So anything else, Murph, before we play this interview from Chuck?
Yeah, I hope you guys dig the interview. We thought that Chuck touched on some transcendent topics that didn't just stick to the usual format of a Booster Club interview. He broadened the perspective on a few things, and so we hope you guys enjoy it as much as we did.
All right, Raider Nation, as we stated, we have the president of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole Booster Club with us, Chuck McCann. Chuck, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Appreciate you coming on the show, Chuck. Right off the bat, first question we always ask any guest who comes on the show, because this gives them their street cred, essentially. What's the origins of your Raiders fandom, Chuck?
That's an easy one. When I was in second grade, I lived in Berkeley, California. And I was driving around with my stepdad one day, and I saw this big stadium, on the side of the highway there. And I said, "Who plays there?" And he said, "Well, it's the Oakland Raiders." I was like, "Wow, I didn't even know we had a football team so close to us." And he says, "We have two." I said, "Who's the other one?" And he said, "San Francisco 49ers." And even as a second grade kid, I knew we're not in San Francisco. That's on the other side of the bridge. And that year, the Oakland Raiders played the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl, and it was the first football game that I, watched by myself all the way through as a young kid, and I have never looked back.
So you're you just randomly driving through Oakland, and you check out that stadium? You never seen it before?
No. I mean, we lived in Berkeley, and for probably about 6 months before then, and I'm a little kid, and just got excited. What is that? And because to me, it looked like a giant, classic Roman Colosseum or something. And that was the home of the Oakland Raiders. And unfortunately, I was there when they left us the first time, and wasn't there when they came back. But
so I was just going to ask, in second grade, you're there, you watch them beat the Eagles, and then they move shortly after that. What did that do to your fandom as a young kid?
It was sad, and I still have one of the classic bumper stickers, "Never will I say L.A." But what happened was they went down there and they dominated, and it hurt. It was a punch in the gut, but I've always been that way. I don't understand when I meet people and they talk about who their second favorite team is or any of that nonsense. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to give up watching football altogether if I was going to not be a Raiders fan. So I've had that with me ever since then. And they, when they went to L.A., it hurt. I was upset, and then they started, they were still the Raiders, and I loved them the whole time.
Chuck, it's a different experience, I think, when you're a fan of football as a kid, and then you start, because as a kid they're bigger than life, right? They're these huge men. Then you grow up, you start becoming the same age as these guys. Then you start becoming older than these guys, and so I wonder, from your perspective, is it easier to see a team move as a kid and you understand it, or is it easier? I mean, maybe not easier, the word, but is it less of a blow to watch him leave as a kid or to leave as an adult? What are your thoughts on that?
It was tough on me as a kid, but at the same time, I've been with this team for so long now, and I've experienced, like you guys have, all the ups and downs, from the Tuck rule to the following Super Bowl loss to the those years that we don't want to talk about. It's probably a bigger blow now as an adult, and because I think for me, actually living in the East Bay when they moved, it was so much of a huge experience for me when they came back. Even though I wasn't living there at the time, I was actually up in Seattle in '95 when they moved back. But it was so huge. It was just the Oakland Raiders are back where they belong, and now that we're finally on track. We're doing all the right things organizationally. We're doing all the right things on the field. And here we go again. So it's for me, it's a bigger blow now. But I think everybody's got a different experience on that. I mean, on one level, as a kid, you don't really, you may not really understand it at the time. Now, I think, being older, it's a bigger blow.
So, Chuck, you got a unique perspective because you were in Oakland. You watched him move. It sounds like you grew up or at least spent a significant part of your childhood over there in the East Bay. Now you're across the country, and you see him move again. So where does that put you with kind of the, for lack of a better term, the internal warfare between the stay in Oakland crowd and the pro Vegas crowd? Like, where do you stand with that?
Well, I tell you what I try and do, and what I when the announcement came out, when it was official that the Raiders are moving, I actually reached out to everybody in my chapter and said, stay out of it. Don't get attached to any of these arguments online. Don't get into the debate, because what people don't understand, people that live in the East Coast and or the South, anywhere outside of the Bay Area, as whatever we feel about this move, it's never going to be the same for us. Oakland, the East Bay, is losing their home team. They're losing their home football team. And however we feel about it, it's not the same feeling. It's not the same experience. And it's one of those things to where, I understand the internal fighting. I don't appreciate the fans attacking each other. You're not a real fan. You live over there. That kind of stuff. A lot of it is just emotional. But I respect the fact that the fans in Oakland, who have put their heart and soul into this team, I understand what they're feeling, and I understand what they're going through. This is the second time for a lot of these guys that they've experienced this, and that it's hard. And for guys on the other side, I understand their feelings too. I appreciate all the perspectives that are coming into this, but I don't think we should be hurling insults at each other.
Well, I think that's the smart approach. We took the whole year off talking about it during the season and touched on it, on the off season. And me and Murph were both born in San Jose and kind of have moved out since. But having gone to games there and having grown up around that area, there's just a certain mystique about the Coliseum. We didn't want them to move, but we're happy they're getting a new stadium. But it's just a bittersweet kind of deal, And I always kind of look at it like, yeah, the stadium's a piece of crap, but that's our stadium, Like, I can make fun of it, but don't you ever make fun of it. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely.
It's our stadium. It's our team. And Oakland is a unique city with a very unique history and a lot of colorful characters, and including the Oakland Raiders. That team, they couldn't have been who they became, if they were from somewhere else. I don't believe it's all part of the mystique. And I think Oakland was part of the backbone to that. But again, the situation is they're moving, and it's people have to come to terms with that in their own way. And as fans, as a fan who grew up out there and has traveled and now lives on the East Coast, I just want to give all the Oakland fans and all the fans in the East Bay and all the fans in California a chance to let this all work itself out internally and not get involved and not go down that road.
Hey, Chuck, I have a question for you. Being that you're out of state, you're not there in the Bay Area, neither are we. And I think it is very interesting that when I get asked, of course, I'm the Raider fan, right? In my sphere of influence, where people that I run with, they know me as the Raider guy. They're mostly all Titans fans. I live outside of Nashville, Tennessee. When I get asked the question by people about this upcoming move, it's always interesting to me that the question is, hey, are you still going to be a Raider fan? It's never, what do you think about the Raiders moving? The question is, are you still going to be a fan? And it's funny because to me, like the answer, it's almost like obnoxious. Like, of course I'm still going to be a fan. Like, why would I not be a fan? But I think you're right, and you hit on something unique about it, because my follow-up to that is always, well, because I don't live there anymore. Like, I don't live in San Jose anymore, so it doesn't change my Raider fan reality, right? But you're right, and I think that's a very interesting point that you made, is that you can't really, even as much as we'd like to, we don't have a reference point to it anymore because we're not there. Do you find it, are you getting those same kinds of questions from people when they ask you about the Raiders' upcoming move?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I get that question all the time. Are you going to be a Las Vegas Raiders fan? And like I said before, what am I going to do? I hate every other team in the NFL. What am I going to do? I don't even like football. I like the Raiders. That's I'm a Raider fan, and I'm not like what do you expect me to do? And I understand there's fans out there now that are going that's it for me, and I understand that. I hope and I believe that that'll change with time. That people are, their emotions are stirring up right now. There's a lot of emotions that I know personally from my friends and family in the Bay Area. Those emotions range from anger, depression. It runs the gambit. They're not happy, but yeah, being out here. Sure, I get that question all the time. What are you still gonna be a Raiders fan? Of course, I'm still gonna be a Raiders fan. I mean, it's part of who I am. It's part of what makes me who I am.
And Chuck, along those lines, we talked a couple weeks ago to a guy who was a Chargers fan. The team, is moving to LA, so he decided to renounce his Charger fandom. Charger faith, if you will, and become a Raiders fan because he stated he didn't like the Broncos or Chiefs. He always had an affinity, I guess, for the Raiders, and so he jumped ship. And we had him on the show, and it was just a really awkward interview. He didn't know a couple basic questions about the Raiders, and me and Murph kind of walked away going, "Wow, that was weird." What is it about the Raider fan base that's different than the other fan bases?
Well, I tell you what, it's my wife. She laughs at me all the time. I don't, from her perspective, she's like, this doesn't happen with any other football team, and she's lived in other areas too. But Rams fans don't. Are there Rams fans? Maybe I should pick another team.
Well, they got Sammy Watkins now, so they might have a couple new bandwagoners.
So Chargers fans, they don't chase each other down when they see a car driving down the road with a Chargers sticker on it and honk their horn and make sure that they see each other and make eye contact. I don't see, maybe because I don't look, but there's no, I live out in the foothills of the Appalachians, an old mining country in New Jersey. We're the only bar that is dedicated to a football team. There's no Chargers bar or, Broncos bar within, I'm going to say, 100 miles of us. Maybe, probably in New York there might be. When you go to away games, and you see, in Baltimore last year where we took over an entire parking lot, and that's literally, we took over an entire parking lot and had trailers and buses and cars in every other parking lot at that stadium. I don't see that from other fans, and I know that they love their teams, and but I play poker, and I play poker at a casino a couple weeks ago, and I'm sitting at the table, and there's another Raiders fan there, because there's Raiders fans everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy sitting next to him is like, I'm thinking of switching to being a Raiders fan. I've been a 49ers fan my whole life, and now I'm really.
Then he wasn't that much of a Niners fan to begin with.
That's what I'm saying. I looked at him, and the other guy looked at him, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, we sat through 13 years of what you are potentially going to sit through for another 13 years. And if you're just going to switch teams every time your team, does something you don't like or falls behind, you're not a fan. You're just not a fan. I don't understand how people can do that. It's very it's foreign to me. I wouldn't, I swore off football after the Tuck rule. I'm never watching football again. But obviously I was right back in there the next season. I had some time to calm down. But I could never imagine going, I'm gonna, go be a fan of some other team. I mean, I might as well just start, following beach volleyball or something. I couldn't do it.
It'd be a little easier on the eyes to follow beach volleyball.
It might be. It might be.
What do you think? What is it about the Raiders that elicits that response from the fan base, Chuck? Because you're right. I'm up here in Oregon. When I see somebody with the Raider hat, it's like we're best friends. I haven't seen each other since high school, So what do you think it is about the Raiders or the Raider mystique that elicits such a response from the fan base?
I think a lot of it really is the mystique, and it's deep. It's a long heritage. It's something that Al Davis created, and John Madden and Tom Flores and all these guys that we built something. They built something that has never been duplicated by another team. It's a unique thing. It's incredibly unique. I mean, there's other teams out there that were smash mouth. There's other teams out there that played tough, mean football, but none of them did it anywhere near the way that the Oakland Raiders did it. Nobody did it anywhere near the way the LA Raiders did it. And it wasn't just, the team, the fan participation, the loyalty, when you go from the crazy costumes and everything else, there's just a mystique about it. There's a feeling about it. It's something that just gets up inside of you. And I don't think you can really understand it or explain it unless you're a fan. And every fan, every true Raiders fan has that in them, and they feel it and they know it. And that's why when we see other Raiders fans, it's an instant kinship. And other fans, for the most part, I see them, respect that as well. There's something about the Raiders that, I hear people that are fans of what's that New Jersey team that wears green?
The Reds? Yeah.
Something, yeah. I see fans of theirs that are like, man, I loved watching the Raiders play in the 70s and 80s. You hear that all the time. You hear it because it was an amazing thing to watch. It was fun. It was in your face. It was, when you got a team on the field that at one point has more penalty yards than rushing yards, and they're still winning the football game, that's something that you want to see. You want to watch it. It's a spectacle. And that's who we are. That's what the fans are all about. That's what the team's all about. And explaining it a little tough, but it's there, and you just know it. You just know it.
Chuck, you mentioned going to Baltimore. and taken over an entire parking lot. Last year, when the Raiders were going to Tampa Bay, I believe it was the coach who came out for Tampa Bay and said, hey, we need you guys to buy tickets to stop the Raider invasion, essentially. Do you think the drought made the fan base hungrier?
That's a tough call. I mean, was it the drought or was it the did we ever go away? The diehards never went away. The diehards were always there. The diehards still traveled. The diehards were always there. And obviously, everybody's not going to do that when the team is in a slump. But the comeback over the last you could just see something the season before last.
It was building.
The Raiders are coming back. And we always knew. I mean, I have friends that are 49ers fans, and I have friends that are Chiefs fans and Chargers fans, growing up out there. And, they would make jokes, and I just say, listen, you guys know the Raiders are coming back. This is a legacy football team. This is a team that's coming back. It may not be this season. It may not be next season. And I wasn't one of those guys that was making, ridiculous predictions when I knew we weren't going to do anything. But you always knew, look, the Raiders will be back. And for anybody that's not paying attention, the Raiders are back. The Raiders are back, and the Raiders are a threat. So I don't know if the drought had anything to do with that, with fans, maybe having a bigger show. I think a lot of it had to do with the comeback.
Raider Nation, we are on with Chuck McCann. He is the president of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole. Chuck, I want to ask you about your group and your organization, but real quick, I want to tell you a quick little story. There's something that happened to me yesterday. You mentioned about how there's this community of Raider fans and how, we can relate to one another when we see each other out in public, even if, if we don't know each other and whatnot. But I found that the converse is also the same, that fans of other teams react to us when they find out we're Raider fans. And we had a meeting yesterday. My son plays on his freshman football team, and we had a quick parent meeting after practice. And I approached his head coach after the game because his coach said, we want to end this meeting so I can get home and watch the Broncos. He was talking about the Broncos-Bears preseason game last night. So I walked up to him after the meeting, and I said, hey, Coach, I said, I think you're doing a great job with our kids, but I hate to hear that we're not going to be able to be friends. And he said, why is that? And I tilted my head down and showed him the Raider logo on my hat, and he said, hell no. And he walked away from it, and I said, that's okay, Coach, I got to pull my kid off the team anyway. And we turned around and walked off, and it was pretty funny. All the parents started cracking up. It's funny how people that find out when we are Raider fans of other teams, how they react to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, I do want to ask you about the fan club. You are an official chapter of the Black Hole. Tell us about the origins of your organization. Tell us about how you're affiliated with the Black Hole and kind of the whole story behind that.
All right. So the Black Hole, as an organization, was started up in 1995 after the Raiders returned home, and it was really started by a group of friends that bought season tickets in the same section of the stadium, and it was a real sort of tight bond between a handful of guys who it started growing, and they decided to turn it into something official, and they founded the Black Hole fans. From there, they started to spread wings a little bit, and started a few more chapters in California, and from there it's just taken off. And we've got chapters, even in Mexico City. We've got a chapter in Germany, and we're all over California. And then, not to mention, I love this because talking about other fans, we're in your house. I mean, we've got a New England chapter, we've got a Denver chapter, we've got a New Jersey chapter, we've got a New York chapter, and we carry the badge of honor of being football's most notorious fans, but we want to represent that in a fun, spirited way, and we want to represent the Black Hole and the Raiders in a way that kind of lets people know that we're not bad guys. We're good people, and we do a lot in the community. Every chapter kind of does their own events and does charitable events, and it's kind of left up to the chapters to sort of run independently on what they want to do. Obviously, with discussion with the Oakland chapter, which is still ran by the founding members, the guys that started the Black Hole back in the 90s.
So talk a little about that. Tell us about some of the community events and the things that you all do. What's one of the Sonny and I's favorite things about getting to interact with folks like yourself that are presidents of booster clubs, or as you mentioned, being a division of or a chapter of the Black Hole, is the community work. The things, whether it's we've heard everything from toy drives to adopting highways to working in homeless shelters and serving food, all the kinds of different great stuff. What are some of the things? Give us some examples of what your group does.
Well, we do all kinds of things. I mean, we do most of the same type of functions that the booster clubs do, and then we offshoot a little bit. Our chapter, our vice president is actually he's an executive on the youth football league in our community, which is a great youth football league, from flag football all the way up to 8th grade, and they wear silver and black. And
nice.
we do work with them to try and help, sponsor kids. It's an expensive sport, and it takes a lot of time. And I used to coach at that level, and I hated to see a kid who I knew wanted to play football, and his parents would say, "Well, I'm not paying for that," or "I'm not driving him to practice every night, and I'm not doing that," because it's parenting and it's hard. But we're there as an organization, the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole. We're there to make sure that if there's a kid that we find out about, and the league knows that they can refer some of these people to us, do it secretly, whatever they want to do to help the kid out, that we can help out by covering the cost of that kid to play football for the year, and help out by helping to make sure that the kid can get to practice and all that stuff. And that's one of the things we do locally, and we want to branch off and see if we can do that in some other communities in our area, because some of our members are not in the same community as us. They're traveling, every Sunday. They're coming an hour and a half to the games, to our events. So, once we're established with the youth sports teams here, we'd like to be able to branch off and have some of these guys do some of the same stuff in their communities. There's, little things. There's, the police were doing a big food drive out here to get food into the food shelters, and our chapter made sure to get out there and make donations to those guys and help fill up those police cars with food. And let's see, the LA chapter did a big a walk for autism last year, and all the chapters got involved with that on social media and promoting it and sponsoring the guys out there. We try and, wherever we can help out, we try and help out.
That's awesome stuff, man. We love to hear that. So as a guy who's coached a lot of youth sports in my time and seen that exact scenario that you described, I think that is an awesome way to outreach to folks and to do something above and beyond. And these things, these groups are like yourselves. It's so much more than just getting together and watching football and drinking beer, eating wings, or whatever it is. It's so much more than that, and we like to really celebrate that. And so props to you for doing that. Is there? So you've talked a lot about the Black Hole chapters, the clubs versus like booster clubs. And it sounds to me like kind of the same thing, right? Like it's just a different organization, like at the top. Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a different organization at the top. I mean, I think the easiest way to explain it is that the Black Hole fans and the Black Hole chapters are owned by the Black Hole. We're sanctioned by the Oakland Raiders. We're sanctioned by the NFL, and there's a lot of guidelines we have to follow to make sure that we're all behaving according to those guidelines. But we are separate from the Oakland Raiders organization, as where the booster clubs are. They go through a process with somebody at Raiders headquarters in Alameda in order to become a booster club. We go through a very similar process, but it's with the higher ups of the Black Hole, which are our founders. But as far as what we do, it's very similar. I mean, we host tailgates, we do a lot of things in the community, and we all hang out with each other. Members of the Black Hole can be members of booster clubs and vice versa. It's not like, oh, you're in this chapter, you can't. We don't do any of that stuff.
So let's talk a little bit about one of your events that you do have coming up. The Raiders, oddly enough, are playing on another big holiday this year, and they're playing not Christmas Eve this time, but they're playing, Christmas Day. It's a Monday night at Philly, so Philly fan can throw snowballs at Santa and Derek Carr. But tell us a little bit about what you got going on for the Philadelphia game this year.
All right, so we're actually, our chapter is co-hosting the tailgate with the Philadelphia chapter of the Black Hole. Obviously, they're taking the lead because it's Philly, but we're here to help, and we're still organizing the event for the night before. We're going to throw a big party, DJs and drinks and wings and all that stuff that you do, and at that event, I'm sure we'll do the typical stuff, 50/50s and silent auctions and all the good party stuff. And then for game day, we're having a big tailgate party. That'll be hosted by Philly and Jersey Black Hole chapters, and we've got a couple of, we've got some support coming in from the booster clubs in the area, DC Metro, and some of the Virginia clubs that are going to be at the game are helping us out. Jersey Shore booster clubs helping us out, but we're kind of, Philly and us are kind of taking the lead on that. Tailgate is all of the Black Hole official events are sponsored by Corona and Modelo, so we'll have plenty of that stuff flowing around. That's it, man. We're gonna have a big party. We're gonna have a great tailgate, and we're gonna have a great football game, and hopefully there's not too much snowball throwing. I mean, Philly can be a little tough, but we're not a divisional rival. We're not, and that was a long time ago too. I mean, the reputations. I hate to put a reputation on other fans. The way that the reputation gets thrown at us. We're all we have a good time, and most people that go to games, they're there to have fun, and there's a little bit of ribbon and back and forth that goes on. But we're looking for a good time, and we're gonna, Philly fans, our tailgate's open to them too. We don't turn anybody away. Come on over and bust our chops a little bit, and then we'll see you after we win.
You're giving out free 8x10s of Dick Vermeil and Ron Jaworski. So come on by, Philly fan.
Again, we're talking to Chuck McCann, president of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole. Chuck, last season the Raiders surprised the league, jumped out to a pretty impressive record. We all know what happened on Christmas Eve, and the following couple games that ensued left a pretty sour taste in Raider Nation. This year, the Raiders aren't going to surprise anybody. We're not going to sneak up on any team. And the NFL didn't reward us with a very good schedule. 3 of the first 4 games are on the road. 3 of the final 4 games are on the road. And we lost a home game. On top of that, we play the Patriots and we play the Cowboys. So we have some tough things this year, I think, in regards to the schedule. With all that said, what are your thoughts on this season? If we don't make the Super Bowl, is it a waste? Playoffs, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm never going to say it's a waste. I'm going to say, and I'm not going to make any predictions on what our record's going to be. I hate going down that road. We do have to remember where we've been and where we are now, and try to keep our egos in check a little bit. But I have all the hopes and expectations in the world for this team. I think that what they've put together is just an amazing thing. And I mean, we saw it all start to come together a couple seasons back. We saw it really come together last season, and this season moving forward. Look, we got things that we have to accomplish. We've got that division rival out there in the Midwest that we just can't seem to defeat, even though we know they're not going anywhere past the playoffs. But regular season, we can't beat them, and we have to take care of that this season. We've got to get out there and we've got to beat the Chiefs. You said we've got the Patriots, and we've got the Patriots, and we've got the Patriots in Mexico, which I don't know how this keeps happening, but the Mexico City fans love it. And it's a fun game to watch, but it's tough. It's tough. You're at a higher elevation than Denver. I don't think people, a lot of people don't even realize that. So it's a difficult thing to do. Can we beat them? Of course we can beat them. I mean, we can beat any football team out there, and we've proven that. We can actually get out there, and we know we can get out there and we can win football games. I don't want to see us, do what we did last year for so many games and have to pull off these come from behind. I mean, they're fun to watch, but
no, they're not. You have about 13 heart attacks. Yeah, during the game.
The heart attacks. The heart attacks.
That's fun.
The comebacks are fun to watch. But you go into cardiac arrest. I don't know how many times. But so we don't want to have that happen. And the team knows that. The team, they've improved upon the coaching staff. They've made a lot of good moves on defense. Which is what we really needed to tighten up. And then we have to get out there and they got to play football. They have to do what they know they can do, which is get out there and win games. They got to stay focused, and they got to get out and win football games. And I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to get out there, and I think they're going to win football games. I mean, nobody's expecting the Raiders of 6-7 years ago to show up next season. Everybody's threatened. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that you've got to keep your eyes on the Oakland Raiders. So my prediction is, and this is the only prediction I can give, we're going to have a great season. And is it a waste if we don't go to the Super Bowl? No. I mean, but that's the goal, right? The goal, you have goals throughout the season. We got to win our division. We got to win the conference, and you want to win the Super Bowl. That's why they go out to play. And how huge would that be for Oakland? It's for the rest of us, but for the fans out there, I think they need it, and I think Janikowski needs a ring. Let's get him that so he can sail away into the sunset and be happy.
Get Giorgio up there, Chuck. Man, I feel like we could talk for hours about Raider football with you. You seem like a great guy. What's last question here? Kind of, we always end the same way. So we start out asking, about your Raider fandom. We like to end with a message to Raider Nation. Our whole show is built on talking to fans, giving a fan's perspective. We're not analysts or nothing like that. We're just fans of the team who love the Raiders, and we like talking to other fans. With that being said, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, what's your message to Raider Nation regarding the current state of being a Raiders fan at this point?
Well, it's mainly to stay positive. The negativity is no good for anybody. We're all fans. It's hurtful when I see fans, accusing other fans of not being real fans because you don't live, in Oakland, and then fans from out of the area, insulting fans from Oakland because they're not supporting the team and they're not, all the insults about, they had years to build this stadium, and none of it's helpful. What we need to do is just stick by our team and stick by each other and ride it out. That's what Raiders do. They just win. And we need to have that same commitment to excellence as fans that the team lives by. That motto needs to stand by us too. And yeah, we can have disagreements, and we can, we don't all see eye to eye on everything. But insulting each other, that's not going to help. Stay positive. Stay out of the arguments. When I see them, I just avoid it. I don't get into it. I talk about games. I talk about football. I talk about what happened in the draft. I talk about all the positive stuff that's going on with the Raiders. And I think that's what fans need to do, is just take a step back, take a breather, and realize that we're all in this. You're not the only fan. You're not. I'm not the only. I'm not the end all of what it is to be a Raider fan. That's not how we handle things. Stay positive, stay focused, and just be a Raider fan. That's all. That's the only message I can give, is just stay focused and positive, and don't fight.
Excellent message, Chuck. Again, appreciate you taking the time. We told you it was going to be a 10-minute interview, but I think we've well exceeded that that time frame. So, again, Chuck McCann, president of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole. Appreciate you coming on, and go Raiders.
Go Raiders. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, once again, we want to thank Chuck McCann for coming on the show, the president of the New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole. Murph, I learned something today. I learned that there's actually two kinds of fan clubs. There's a Black Hole fan club, and then there's the Raiders booster clubs. On top of that, I thought Chuck had a lot of good insight in regards to kind of staying out of the emotional social media kind of bickering that's gone on between the Vegas deal and the stay in Oakland kind of stuff. I just thought overall it was one of our better interviews, not so much from the quality of us, but just from the quality of Chuck's insight into being a Raiders fan, and it was really fun. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we decided to release this as a standalone episode, is that Chuck went well beyond just the I don't want to call it run-of-the-mill question and answers, but, it went beyond just discussing his group and discussing their activities, and it really grew into a conversation of, what it is to be a Raider fan and how it relates to other people that are and aren't fans. And, I thought he brought a unique perspective for someone that is not there anymore. And, you and I relate a lot to the fan that was there when they moved the first time, but now are not there anymore. That's us. Like exactly what Chuck described is what you and I are, is that we were kids when they moved away, and now we're adults and they're moving away again. And how do we feel about that? And I thought that his perspective and his point of, look, don't engage, or at least what he advised his folks, is that don't engage because you can't understand that perspective no matter what. And frankly, that's something I hadn't thought about. I mean, no one's ever accused us of not having an opinion. And so by taking a step back and reserving my opinion and listening to what someone else's perspective was on it, that was very eye-opening to me, was that, I like to think that, I have a good idea of what the fair reaction would be to this, but we're not there. We're not there. And not that we've ever judged the stay in Oakland people before, not that we've ever begrudged them for any of their actions or anything. It's never been anything like that, but I have had trouble wrapping my brain around the whole, screw you, I'm not going to be a fan anymore. I haven't been able to embrace that thought. And now, after talking to Chuck, now I get it. It's because we're not there. We can't wrap our brains around it.
Yeah, we never could, and we can understand it as outsiders, but we're not there, so we can't really judge. And I liked his approach, and me and you, because we're so opinionated, we've shared our opinions in the past, but I liked his perspective. I wish I had the wisdom to just completely remove myself. But, as he alluded to, emotions, social media, the ease of being able to post, very few of us are able to do that. And so I appreciated his leadership of his club when it went down, how he contacted everybody and said, look, stay out of it. And just stay out of it. And I thought that was really cool. And then at the end, I thought it was really a positive message again. It's like, just stay positive. Just unite. And that same message comes across with every club president we talk to. It's stay united. Good times are coming. Stay united, man. We're Raiders fans. Nothing can change that. It's a different fan base than any other fan base really across the world in regards to sports. And there's something special about that. And don't let small things that seem big, but don't let the things get in the way of that. There's a bigger mystique at play. It's a personal identity that we all take in, becoming a Raiders fan and being a Raiders fan, and really it is. It's like we are a Raiders fan. It's part of your being. It's not just something you do on Sundays. It's something you take pride in on Tuesdays when you're at the grocery store. So I would just, again, thank you to Chuck McCann coming on, New Jersey chapter of the Black Hole, and we'll have another full-length podcast dropping in a couple of days. Anything else, Murph?
That's it. Go Raiders. Fun stuff, man, because we kick off the season here on Saturday night.
Raider Nation, wherever, forever.